Before we start to talk about technical details of Safeguard, it's a good idea to talk about the terminology which exists as well for the Safeguard product, like for the other One Identity products as well. In Safeguard, we are using very specific terms to describe specific things, and it is a very good idea to use these terms if you want to talk with others about Safeguard, just to avoid any kind of misunderstandings. Therefore, on the following screen, you can see the Safeguard as an appliance, and behind of the Safeguard appliance, there's the managed infrastructure managed by Safeguard. First term to talk about, it's the user object. A user is a specific person who is able to do something with an Safeguard. Users exist in two different flavors. The people who just use Safeguard to request passwords or sessions, and the other type of user, which is a user with more privileges, and this is the admin user who is able to configure Safeguard. Honestly, a user and an admin user could be the same, because the admin user is only a user with more privileges. On the other hand side, pretty often, admin users and users are different in a way of that the admin users configures the Safeguard system at the end the normal users are using. Additionally to the users exists in Safeguard something we call the asset. An asset could be, on the one hand side, for example, a machine, like a computer, server, or PC, or something like that. It could be as well an application, like a database-based application, and so on. And there's a third type, which is a directory asset, which is a little bit more special as the others. Directory assets cannot be managed, but they can just provide a couple of accounts, we will see later on, and these accounts then could be managed. To see that in detail, you can see the account could exist on machines, for example, local accounts, in applications, for example, application accounts, like database, for example, and you can just take accounts from a directory, like Active Directory, and you can use the directory as a store for accounts, could be managed as privileged accounts in Safeguard. In addition to these accounts exists another object, which is the session object, which is a little bit a more complex object using the account object. Remember, an account, it's just the privilege to do something with a specific system or within a specific system. The session itself, it's a way to remotely connect to a specific system with a remote desktop session, for example. Therefore, you need an account. That means an account or a session object, it's something which uses a specific account, have to be configured as well. Once this is done from a session object, you can just sign in to a Windows workstation, for example, with an RDP session, and you can do something on that specific machine. If you don't need something like this, that means something not that type of complex, just for example an account to access a network share or whatever, then you can as well request for a password, and you will get a specific password for a specific administrative, that means privileged account. Additionally to that exists in Safeguard something that is called partitions. Partitions are objects, could be used to group different assets together. So in each partition could be machines, applications, and directory assets. And this is important as well, for partitions you can as well create something which is called discovery profiles, check profiles, change profiles, and password rules. All of these four types of things will be discussed later on in a video. At present, it is important to know there are partitions to manage the different assets. And with these terms we learned, we can just start to listen Holger what exactly we can do in Safeguard with these objects.
Let's talk about directories in Safeguard. Directories are used in Safeguard for multiple things. Most of them, they are holding user or accounts or privileged accounts. We're going to talk about privileged accounts later. To create a directory service or directory in Safeguard, just click on your settings, go to directories. There's a special entry in the menu that's called directories. As you see, we have created one directory already. But if you want to create a new directory or multiples of them, there's no limit in the number of directories you can configure. Just go to the plus sign and start to fill in all these lines with the appropriate values. So there's a choice. You can say, okay, we have a Microsoft Active Directory or we have a Unix-based Open LDAP version 2.4. This for now, in this version we're going to show you, is the only directory versions that are supported out of the box, and you can configure here in this dialog. Just to give you an example how this looks like, I'm going to call my already configured directory here. So our directory is a Microsoft Active Directory. It is located in iam.corp. That's the root forest domain. The domain for this directory, what's responsible for, is iam.corp. Not very surprising. And I have a service account that is named sg_svc. This is my service account. This service account only needs read access to my directory. It is used to look for accounts, look for whatever different information we're going to use in Safeguard coming from a directory. Of course, you have to enter the password. Once you have entered the password, it will not be shown here again. It is stored internally. But if you type in a new password here, it's going to overwrite your password that is already stored. So if you have changed your password for your service account, you just have to replace it here as well. And give it a nice description and whatever you want. And then maybe you have a look on the advanced area here. That gives you the default settings for synchronization and for deletion. So you can instruct Safeguard to scan certain groups of the directory or run a sync with the directory to look for new items configured or for items deleted in the meantime. So it will easily adapt to changes to your Active Directory without further intervention. So that's some kind of automatism that is included in Safeguard out of the box. So you just have to adjust these settings to the values that suit you. This is this default, but you can change a couple of stuff here for the required entry. Okay, go to the attributes. The attributes will define what the directory information is structured and what kind of items Safeguard will use to look for maybe users, computers, and groups. So you just have to define how the attribute mapping is defined in your directory. So Safeguard can construct the appropriate calls to your directory to look for new users, deleted users, for computers, and for groups. The values you see here is the default setting. So if you use the Active Directory as it comes in the default configuration and there's no schema extension or whatever you can do with a directory service, this will work very easily and without further changes necessary.